Welcome back. All right. It felt like, with what happened this weekend in the wrestling world, that I should weigh in on it a bit. Talk about the WrestleMania card as it's shaping up. There are a lot of really good matches. And the good news for me is that WrestleMania this year is on April 19th and 20th. The NHL's regular season ends, I believe, on April 17th. So while there will be hockey games going on, and it'll be playoffs, I should be able to see a lot of WrestleMania. At the very least, if I can't watch it live, I'll be able to watch it later, or maybe I'll watch parts of it. I'm kind of excited for it because this Mania looks pretty good. It's going to be out of Las Vegas, of course. 2-day event. I am not going and attending it in person, but I'll be here and I'll be watching it on my TV, and I've got a pretty nice TV, so it's kind of like being there in person. It's not, but I can tell myself it is. So, starting with, and I've got written down the confirmed matches for the card and the rumored matches for the card. And so the confirmed matches are as follows. We have Cody versus Cena, and Cena's heel turn last night was fantastic. And at the same time, I do wonder, like, how far they'll go with this, how long this will last. Um, when when we've talked about Cena, and I'm looking way back. That was one complaint that people had, was that WWE never had the courage to turn him heel. I think if Vince was still running the show, Cena doesn't turn heel. I think that was something that Vince would not have allowed, because I think from a merch standpoint he wouldn't have wanted to take that risk. And it is a risk because Cena's fans traditionally have been the kids, right? And the younger fan. And I understood that because when Cena was at his peak, I had little kids and they loved Cena. And I was not as much of the type that really enjoyed John Cena. I got really tired of him. But I understood why he was at the top. And I understand that, Cody versus Cena is a huge match. This also, Punk versus Cena is going to happen this year. That got kind of set up there. And there's other feuds that they can have as well. Plus, making Cena a heel means that if he does beat Cody at Mania, that he could have feuds with other wrestlers as well, where he's the heel and they're the face. It just changes that dynamic, and it opens up feuds he can have against guys that he otherwise normally wouldn't have been fighting. So I'm excited about that part. I think that could be really fun. And I would expect that since this calendar year is the final year for him, he probably drops the belt at Survivor Series, because I do expect him to win it. I'd be very surprised if Cena doesn't win the belt. Get that 17th title reign. The one thing I do wonder, though, is, so you've got The Rock fighting on the side of Cody. And the first thought I had was, what if Stone Cold Steve Austin was in Cody Rhodes' corner? What if The Rock and Cena come out tomorrow on Raw, and, Cody comes out and they're like, it's just you. What are you going to do about it? And then the glass smashes and out comes Stone Cold. I think the crowd would go nuts, personally. But anyways, I don't think that's going to happen. I had that thought of, this would work if they wanted to do this here, if they really want to amp up that main event. Although I will say this. The first thought I had was, remember when there was a McMahon in every corner and how bad that main event was? Do you really want to kind of do an echo of that? Probably not. So at any rate, yeah, we'll see what happens there. But I'm excited for how that storyline's going to develop. Gunther versus Jey Uso. I don't know if that one's going to, I don't think that's going to close out a night. You have to think that Cody and I want to say The Rock, that Cody and Cena will close out night 2, obviously. Night 1 kind of has to be Charlotte against Tiffany, I think, as the main event. Or do you make Gunther versus Jay the main event? Or, because it is main event Jey Uso. Yeah, you kind of have to, don't you? So Gunther and Jay headline the first night, and then the second night is headlined by Cena against Cody. Yeah, that's the way you have to do that then. But yeah, it's going to be great either way. Tiffany versus Charlotte. I am so not feeling this match. I have the same apathy that a lot of other fans have towards Charlotte at this point in her career. And it's weird because I don't fault her for this, but I just wish that somebody else would have got that bump from the Rumble, when Charlotte was coming back and the news leaked out she was supposed to win it. I'm like, of course she is. She's Charlotte. Of course she's going to win it. Then she'll win the title. And they could go that route where Charlotte sets a record for the most women's titles won and ties a record. And I know she's going for a record too. I think she's trying to tie her dad's record, right? And then if Cena gets another one, then she'd have to get more title reigns. My excitement's overflowing for Charlotte, and I feel bad because Tiffany Stratton, I think, is the best pure young athlete I've seen as a female wrestler. I want to say maybe ever. Just that she picked it up so fast, and there's such a natural talent in the way that she moves in the ring. There's a natural flow to everything she does. I sometimes think she does too many of the weird, headstands, handstands, all this, and the gymnastic stuff. Because part of it is for me, and I know it's predetermined and all that, but it's hard to sell the idea that somebody does like chink, 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 and the other person just stands in the corner waiting for it. And you can see the wrestler standing in the corner waiting for it because they always have the cameras 2 inches away from the action, which I think is part of the problem with wrestling these days, because you see them calling spots and you see wrestlers standing there waiting to get hit, or you see wrestlers looking at the arm of the referee to see when that 3 count's coming down so they can pull the shoulder out. The cameras, I think, are too close. Wrestling back in the day, it was, if you're old like me, you remember the standard camera that was 800 feet away. You could see the whole crowd. At the very least, you could see the crowd all behind them, and you'd have the ring right in the middle. The wrestlers would play to the camera side, but you didn't get in close. You didn't hear guys calling moves. And you didn't see a lot of the stuff that we're seeing now. So it's just one of those things. And it feels like with the women's matches, sometimes it's a little more prominent than it is with the men's matches with how close up they get. Rhea versus Bianca is going to be fantastic. I have to mention from Elimination Chamber, Bianca Belair's selling of her mental anguish watching Naomi get the holy hell beat out of her by Jade Cargill. I loved that performance by Jade and by Bianca in that moment. And it's weird because Jade's attacking Naomi, which we saw coming. We knew Naomi was the one that had attacked her and put her out of commission. And that'll come out, I would think, tomorrow night on Raw. So even though there's 6 games tomorrow night, I'm going to have to figure out a way to watch that. Because I'm excited to see what they do with Jade and which way they send her. Does she turn heel? She can't, can she? Because she got attacked. So she's still going to be a face. But the way she beat up Naomi didn't look very heroic. It looked more like just an assault. And Liv Morgan's face when Jade came out of, oh no, I'm in trouble, was awesome. That was great. Absolutely fantastic. Loved it. It was awesome. That whole bit was just awesome. So I'm looking forward to seeing Naomi versus Jade at Mania. I would think Jade will probably destroy her, but it might end up being a street fight. That's one that feels like it could end up being a street fight at Mania. But Rhea versus Bianca is going to be fantastic once they get to focusing on that. Rhea Ripley, I think Bianca Belair is the best challenger for Rhea Ripley at this point. I think it's a really good call on their part. So, yeah, I'm really surprised at how well Mania is shaping up, since at times it's felt like WWE might be switching things up on the fly. And then others, okay, so we have Seth versus Punk. We know that's going to be great. I don't really have anything to add to that. You know that Seth Rollins and CM Punk are going to be fantastic against one another. Orton versus Owens should be awesome as well. I do wonder with the beating Sammy took last night, are they going to give Sammy a few weeks off, or is Sammy gonna come back? That looked like a gimmick chair too. This is going to feel really weird to people that did not watch the show. But the barbed wire wrap chair, to me, how do I put this? It did not look like that was real barbed wire to me, and I'm just saying that. Just to me, it looked like it was maybe dulled barbed wire at least a little bit on that chair. But either way, that was a brutal match, and Randy Orton coming out, pretty cool. I look forward to Orton versus Owens at Mania. That's got to be the match. There just has to be. And then I talked about Jade versus Naomi and Bayley versus Roxanne Perez. Bring it on. Give Roxanne the win over Bayley at Mania. And then I would think by SummerSlam, you're giving Roxanne a shot at Tiffany. I would say a shot at Tiffany Stratton for the title. I am crossing my fingers Charlotte doesn't win is how I'm putting that. And or you could have a good feud between Rhea and Roxanne, but it does get tougher to to see that size difference. Like for instance, tomorrow night Rhea's defending the title against Io Sky. I you'll notice I'm not saying Io Sky could win that match. She could. She's not going to. And it's not going to be a triple threat either. Io Sky's in an interesting position because it's been her and Dakota. We haven't seen Kyrie for a bit that I recall. Of course, Asuka's been out hurt. So damage control's been kind of meandering. And I don't see Io Sky as a big threat to Rhea Ripley at this point, which is too bad. And I've seen people say, well, you have to have certain wrestlers like Nia has to be the one that fought Rhea because they haven't built anybody else up. That's damning of the booking then. Whenever I hear somebody say, well, there aren't enough credible contenders for this title, I'm thinking, okay, so they haven't built them up. Because it's predetermined, the show should be building up those top contenders. And sometimes they make a champion look so strong that you don't believe anybody can beat them. They ran into that trouble with Roman as well. So there's that balancing act between making a wrestler look really strong and just making them look invincible. And then you've got Drew versus Priest. I do wonder how Drew McIntyre feels about this. The rags, the online websites have been talking about how Drew's not necessarily all that happy with things. He may not be happy to fight Damian Priest right now. Priest is in an interesting place in that I still think I really like Priest. I think he's a good wrestler. I think he's a credible main eventer, but it seems like the crowd's kind of gone a little bit lukewarm on him. And I've seen a lot of online feedback where people are going lukewarm on him, so maybe his time has passed. Maybe Drew isn't happy to be in a feud with him, or maybe WWE's trolling us again. It is clear that in the Triple H era that he understands that these online rumor sites are out there and there's false information being fed out. They are absolutely sending false rumors to these sites to make them look bad and to make it so that what they predict does not happen. I think the Alexa Bliss situation was one of those things. I think they knew they were keeping her. I think she knew she was going back. And I think they leaked out that it wasn't going to happen so that people were really surprised when she came back out. And Alexa Bliss, I've always been a fan of hers, and she shows that a smaller wrestler can get over with the crowd, either as a face or as a heel. So that's where with Roxanne, I hope she follows in those footsteps, because Roxanne Perez is an amazing wrestler, but my number one concern for her has always been she goes to the main roster, gets lost in the mix, and because she's smaller, right? Maybe, but hopefully not. The one wrestler I do feel bad for, outside of Sonya Deville, who just got let go, is Shayna Baszler. Shayna was supposed to be this like she had this character in NXT that was so intimidating and so awesome and over the top. And on the main roster, she's kind of been lost in the mix. And it's weird to me that we have all these matches for Mania. Shayna's not. I don't know how much long Shayna's going to be there, to be honest, because she's kind of. That's how you can tell when they're not in these big storylines, and they're not at the top of the card, and they're sort of moving their way down, and they're still in the show, but they're basically there to put other people over. That's when you can tell that they're probably on their way to being told, good luck in your future endeavors. And with so many good young wrestlers coming up, there are so many in NXT right now that are just absolutely killing it. Fatal Influence, I think all three of them should be called up. And I think that group could do a lot. But that's where it gets tricky. Because in order to bring the wrestlers up, you got to let other wrestlers go. There was a purge in NXT to make room for other NXT wrestlers. After Mania, we usually see that purge as well with the main roster. And so we'll see what happens. But I'm excited about Mania. I think they're going to build to it well. We will find out. And now at least the whole Rock storyline, which was weird, at least now it makes sense. I'm going to agree with the Cornette podcast that the Rock's abilities to deliver a promo, they're not what they were. It's hard. I mean, it's been 25 years, so it's not crazy that he can't deliver a promo the way that he did 25 years ago. But he doesn't have that same, like, the crowd goes nuts when he comes out, and then he talks on the mic, and it's just it's kind of a mess. We'll see how it is tomorrow night. We know Cena's fantastic on the mic as a heel or as a face. Although we haven't seen him as a serious heel, I don't think we ever did, because when he was a heel before, that was the rapping character with the chains and everything and the whole thug life thing. And that wasn't really a serious heel. So he's not going to go back to that character. I'm interested to see what they do with him. I think that should be interesting. The one thing though with him, and this would be honest advice I'd give him from a guy that's bald as well. Thus the hats. It's part of the reason for the hats. I wore the hats before I was bald. I knew I was going to go bald. Both sides of the family, it's just male pattern baldness. But you really notice it with how long his hair is and how he obviously tries to cover it. Your smartest move is you don't have to shave it, but cut it short. I always keep mine short. I do shave it down, almost all the way down, once every couple of months. And I think it looks better. I think that it looks better than growing it out and making it obvious you're trying to cover up the fact you're losing your hair. I think you got to kind of own it. So that's the only advice. That's the only thing with him that kind of stands out to me. He's trying to cover that up, and you can't. You can't unless you go back to the 80s and you get that spray on hair. The funniest thing I ever saw in my life. I just cannot imagine. I'd probably put that on, jump on the treadmill, and then I'd have like black streaks running all the way down my back from where it runs because I'm getting all sweaty. Anyways, thank you. I'm not going to do a video of that. No way. It's not going to happen. But thank you guys so much for all your support. Let me know your thoughts. Are you excited about WrestleMania 41? Are you not? Which matches are you looking forward to? There's a lot of other stuff that I do not have on there that I know will be matches. As Mania's put together, I will absolutely do more videos on this and which builds I like and which ones I'm kind of lukewarm with. But here's to hoping Tiffany retains at Mania 41. I think it would do a heck of a lot for her if Charlotte puts her over and puts her over clean. I think that would be the right way to go about it. We'll see if that takes place. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.